Hello everyone, Zane's Productions here. Today we're going to tackle Chapter 1 of Fire Emblem 4 using only Sigurd. And let me tell you, things have definitely ramped up since the previous chapter. Just have a look. Yeah, this is about to get interesting. To start things off, I put Sigurd through the arena to get him a little extra experience, but most importantly, a lot of gold to work with. Seeing how strong he is, he gets through the arena without so much as a flesh wound, and since the arena heals him fully after each round, that doesn't matter at all. With the arena complete, he now has enough gold to reliably heal at churches and repair his weapons throughout this chapter. So, let's get right into the chapter itself. As opposed to the previous chapter having mostly scattered enemies, this chapter is the first to primarily feature full formations of enemies. While Sigurd can usually deal with a full formation on his own, if the enemy has a decent hit rate on him, or even a hit rate at all, he can run into a problem where the enemy does enough chip damage to put him in serious danger. This is what happened with the first formation I went against, when despite his decent avoidance rate, he got hit multiple times by the various enemies, especially the archers who aren't affected by the weapon triangle. I am presented with the dilemma of either hitting the boss to weaken him or going to heal Sigurd on the church immediately. I chose the former, thinking that I can reach the church afterwards, and am instead greeted with my first death of the chapter. Rethinking my strategy, I put Sigurd on the church and noticed that the remaining enemies are making a beeline for my home base. As noted in the previous episode, I can't let that happen or else the game is over. So I have to rush Sigurd towards the enemies, equipping the javelin so I can hit at 2 range and successfully defeat the first formation. There are also 2 units that we recruit automatically at the start of this chapter, Du and Ideen. While bandits do end up catching up to and attacking Ideen, due to her not having any weapons, she can't deal damage back, meaning this technically doesn't break my rule against playable characters other than Sigurd in this generation not being able to deal damage against enemies. Meanwhile, I heal Sigurd back to full health on the church, and then deal with the bandits that were attacking Ideen. I first attempt to put Sigurd on the forest with a sword to make sure Sigurd doesn't get hit, but when this happens, the bandits ignore him entirely and surround him, impeding his movement and causing no enemies to be defeated. This is because the enemies have a 0% hit rate on Sigurd with his sword equipped. I reset and put him in the forest with a lance instead, so the enemies will now, naturally, throw themselves at Sigurd. While he does take a few hits from this, I decide to take a gamble and go for the next castle anyway without healing up. This castle features bandits with hand axes, a 1 to 2 range weapon, and Ira, a Myrmidon with some fairly scary skills to her name. While these enemies could pose a threat to Sigurd with his lowered HP, I rush towards the castle anyway, hoping for the best. I successfully make it to the castle and... oh no, here comes Ira. Let's hope that she doesn't kill us. Whew, okay, she doesn't. But she unfortunately doesn't make it out of this fight in one piece. Can we get Rip Ira in the comments? Anyway, we finally capture this castle, and it's time to go straight over to the next one. This isn't nearly as scary as the previous castle, with the church not too far away for Sigurd to heal on, and the bandits guarding it all being standard run-of-the-mill enemies. However, Gandalf does unfortunately hit us, causing us to drop to nearly half HP. I decide to take another gamble here, knowing that if I equip Sigurd with the javelin, I can easily seize this castle next turn. Otherwise, Gandalf would use a 2-range weapon, and I wouldn't be able to counterattack, risking another hit which would probably end up taking out the last of Sigurd's HP. This, fortunately, pans out, and I seize this castle. 1 more to go. I will be honest, I am very worried about this part. Approaching are Jamka and his band of fighters, and while the fighters are easy to deal with, I am worried that they may target Deirdre when she appears in the forest. If she attacks them, the run is invalid. However, the real threat is Jamka. Jamka wields the Killer Bow, which is a very accurate weapon that has a chance to cause a critical hit, killing Sigurd in one shot. All of this, on top of the fact that Sigurd has very low HP at this point, makes it clear that the best strategy at this point is to guard the castle we just seized, regain Sigurd's HP, and wait for Jamka and his crew to approach us. After a few turns, Jamka is finally near the castle. I first think that I can lure Jamka towards me and attack him with a javelin, but this ends up with me dying twice in a row. I instead go back to the castle and wait for Jamka to get closer until I can attack him in melee. The opportunity arises for me to do so the very next turn, so I attack Jamka and go further into the forest. Unfortunately, the axe fighters are ignoring Sigurd and are making a formation going towards Deirdre's spawn point. However, I don't want to switch to a lance instead because there isn't any opportunity to heal Sigurd going forward in case he does get hit. Because of this, I will have to carefully deal with the axe fighters one by one, in a way that blocks them from reaching Deirdre when she spawns in. I successfully do this, and at this point, I'm on a timer to complete the chapter as quickly as possible before the fighters reach Deirdre. I reach the final castle and make a pretty obvious blunder. Wanting to attack all of the archers, I equip a javelin, but don't put myself in the forest. Instant karma hits me because these axe fighters guarding the castle pack a serious punch. I reset after they attacked me, knowing that I would have inevitably died, and put myself in the forest instead. I barely survived the enemy phase, but I decide on one last gamble. From here, I can reach the final boss. All I have to do is dodge a 69% hit. Nice. And I end up doing it. With this, I can seize the final castle and move on to Chapter 2. Tune in next week to see me tackle it. Have a good one, and until next time, bye-bye.